Backchat TV. Subscribe.
He has also talked about it. That left hook is so good, and it's so long and so precise and so hard, but
What's going on, guys? It's Backchat TV, and I'm back with some weekend action. Happened just this weekend gone. Middleweight division, Tszyu versus the hard-hitting Brian Mendoza. It was a really good fight, a better fight than I thought it would be. I had a feeling it was going to be a good fight because I watched the press conference leading up to the fight, and Mendoza had a kind of a no-quit face. He just looked like this was his time, and I could tell he was going to give his all in this fight. So, and you know, Tszyu always gives his all. So I knew it was going to be a good fight. It was slightly better than I thought it would be. Very exciting fight, but not just the fight, but the implications of the fight for the rest of the division. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Obviously, it's a middleweight division, 154 pounds. Tszyu is the newly crowned champion, due to the fact that Jermell Charlo was stripped. As everyone knows, he was stripped due to the fact that he was meant to fight Tszyu, and instead he went up to 168 pounds to fight Canelo, and you know, rightfully or wrongfully stripped for that, we have a champion in Tszyu. Now, Charlo, before I talk about the fight, Charlo going up to 168 pounds to fight arguably one of the best fighters in the world, Canelo, he's received a lot of backlash for his lackluster performance. A lot of people, including myself, accused him of just going up there for a money grab, just to get the money, the biggest fight, and basically he ran around the ring, he hardly threw any meaningful punches. He seemed happy to get the payday. He didn't seem that bothered about losing, and a lot of people trashed him online. I wouldn't say I was one of the people who trashed him, but I definitely gave a review that wasn't so complimentary, I would say. I do think there were people that said worse things, but he didn't seem to turn up, and he didn't give a good performance. My views on that matter have slightly changed, but the reason why I'm talking about that fight is it's very important in relation to this fight with Tszyu and Brian Mendoza, because I feel like a lot of people always had respect for Tszyu as a hard punching fighter, a world-class fighter, but now I think people see him as the rightful champion because of his performances. Unbeaten, you know, he had a great performance against Harrison, among a lot of other good fighters, and recently this fight with Brian Mendoza really kind of solidified him as a great champion. And now I feel like people believe Tszyu can beat Charlo because Mendoza is a good fighter. He proved that in his last fight against that 6'5" giant. I don't know how he makes the weight for 154 pounds. Fedoza, I think his name is Fedoza. He knocked him out, and that was a really good performance. We know that Brian Mendoza is a hard puncher, and we know, but we didn't think that he was that hard a puncher to knock out someone like Fedoza, and he did. So I think for Tszyu to deal with Brian Mendoza so easily, it ended up being a unanimous decision. He gained a lot of new fans, Tszyu. He got a lot of new fans. A lot of people are now believing in him. I'm one of the people. I personally believe that Tszyu can beat Charlo. And the funny thing about it is, I think that Charlo's lucky because, first of all, he got a big payday from Canelo that sets him up for, you know, the rest of his life potentially, at the expense of his respect. That could be career-ending. But Tszyu, I think, may be able to save Charlo's career, because I feel like where Tszyu has now got the respect that people think that he could beat Charlo, all Charlo has to do is give his best, give a good performance against Tszyu and beat Tszyu convincingly, and he'll have believers again. People will believe in Charlo again because people really do believe in Tszyu, and I'm one of the people. Like I said, he's a hard puncher. He's got good skills, and he's got good pressure, good timing. He's looking like a champion. He's looking like a world beater at the moment. And if Charlo can get in the ring, get his head right, decide if he really wants to do this boxing anymore because he didn't look like it against Canelo, and if he can put in a good performance against Tszyu and beat him convincingly, then I think he gets everyone back on side. I can't speak for everyone, but personally, he'd get me back on side. I would give Charlo another chance after the Canelo loss. And I'll tell you why. One reason is because Tszyu is a worthy opponent. The other reason is because it's not easy to go up 2 weight classes and fight at 168 pounds to fight arguably one of the best fighters in the world. It's just not. People just overestimate how much you can jump weight classes. You can't. Canelo is one of the best fighters in the world. He's had the majority of his fights at 168 pounds. He's had 2 fights with world-class fighters at 175 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. One of the best fighters at 175 pounds couldn't knock Canelo out. I'm obviously referencing Demetrius Bivol. That's definitely something to consider. Canelo is strong at that weight, 168 pounds. He's conditioned at that weight. He's experienced. He's acclimatized to that weight. Charlo is not. This is the honest truth. For people who think that Charlo wasn't trying, you're mistaken. He was trying in there. He just was not conditioned at 168 pounds. He said that he wished he could have put on more weight. This was the first time at the weight class. And, he didn't get stopped. But at the end of the day, you could see that his punches were not having effect on a man who has been in the ring with bigger punchers and bigger men. You could see it, Charlo was throwing hard shots. He was moving, getting out the way, slipping shots. But he couldn't push Canelo back. He was just not conditioned at that weight. He wasn't strong at that weight, and Canelo just bullied him basically. But he gave it a good performance, as in moving around, not getting hit with the big shots. People say he should have tried, but he was trying in there. He was throwing shots and they were having no effect. Canelo was slipping them, and this is how boxing is. You can't just jump weight classes. So I've kind of got a newfound respect for Charlo, although everyone thinks he didn't try as much as he could have. He probably did the best he could do. Now that he has experience at what it takes at 168 pounds, he could probably put in a better performance if he was to have another chance. But Canelo has consistently been fighting at this higher weight. I'm sure we'd see a completely different fight if Canelo was to come down to 160, where he hasn't been fighting for a while, and fight Charlo, and then we'd see something more competitive. So I don't want to give Charlo too much flack for his lackluster performance, to be honest. He could completely redeem himself in my eyes if he convincingly beats Tszyu. That's kind of how I feel about it. Let me know how you feel about that situation. Could Charlo get back your respect if he beats Tszyu in a convincing fashion, or is he just completely lost all respect because of the Canelo fight? That's one thing I want to say. Just talking about the actual fight for a little while, it was a good fight. Brian Mendoza gave it his all. I'm a fan. If from now on, if there's a fight with Brian Mendoza in it, I'm gonna watch it, because I know he's a front foot fighter. He's gonna come forward. There's no running away from him, and he's gonna throw punches and he's gonna look to knock you out. And everybody enjoys that kind of fighter. But unfortunately, I feel like he could have done better. He seemed like, to me, Mendoza seems like the kind of fighter who's used to being the hammer. He's used to being the hammer, and against Tszyu, he was forced to be the nail, and he had no experience of that. Once you have experience of that, you know how to adapt. If someone can't take your power, if you can't take someone's power, and you're normally the one who's delivering the power shots, then you start to be more strategic. Then you start to be more smart, moving out the way of the big shots, landing your shots, tying someone up when they're gonna throw shots, and you start to use your common sense, really, use your defense as much as you use your offense. And I felt like Mendoza never had a plan B. It was just basically slug it out with Tszyu and see who gets knocked out. That's what it seemed like. You know, so many times when Tszyu backed him up against the ropes, and he was kind of throwing these big shots, which Mendoza could see from a mile off, and you know, he didn't get out of the way. He was just trying to catch the shots and land his own, and a lot of the times these shots landed and started to take the wind out of his sails. He started to slow down, he started to get hit really badly, and he was still trying to kind of power through, you know, throwing back harder shots. Every time Tszyu would throw a hard shot, Mendoza would try to top it with a harder shot, and he should have been trying to outsmart Tszyu by moving a little bit more, you know, getting out the way of the big shots, landing your shots, getting out the way of the big shots. He got stuck against the ropes a lot of the times. Even in the center of the ring, when he could see these big shots coming from Tszyu, he didn't really make that much of an effort to get out of the way. And, you know, he paid the price at the end of the day. But a tough guy, good fighter, definitely world class, I would say. He went the distance. Tszyu was punching really hard. And, you know, he couldn't take the power in the end. But it was a good fight and a good warm-up for Tszyu versus Charlo. I think a lot of people now want to see that fight, and I definitely would include myself in that, wanting to see that fight. Who do I think will win? This is the important thing. I feel like it depends who shows up. I have a feeling that Charlo has lost that tenacity that we saw early on when he was quite immature, would say controversial things and would get angry at any little thing, wanted to fight everybody. That Charlo, we kind of love to hate that Charlo, you know. We would complain about him being arrogant and, you know, rubbing people up the wrong way, but we would love how it translated in the ring and how he would knock people out. And I feel like that Charlo may have gone, you know. I think he's matured, which is a good thing, but I don't see that tenacity anymore. I don't see that guy who would give it all in the ring just not to lose, you know, the guy who cried in front of thousands of people watching him at the press conference the first time he lost. That guy, you know, I miss that guy. I feel like the best version of Charlo would be the Charlo that has the experience of fighting someone like Canelo, combined with that strong mentality that he had before he lost. Unfortunately, I feel like that version of Charlo would beat Tszyu, but unfortunately, I feel like the Charlo we're going to get is the Charlo who doesn't mind losing now. He's made a lot of money. He realizes that money is more important than winning. And, you know, that version of Charlo hasn't got a chance against Tszyu. I'll tell you why. Tszyu, he's got the bit between the teeth. He wants it. He's a champion. He loves being a champion. He's ready to take on all comers. And if Charlo goes in there with that half-hearted mindset, he's going to have a tough fight on his hands. And I think Charlo will crumble, you know, and start to move around the ring and just try to coast through. Because I think he'll be okay with saying, you know, oh, it was a good fight. The best man won in the end. And, you know, I've been champion for a long time. Is Tszyu's chance to be a champion. I feel like Charlo's got that mindset now because he's lost already. He's lost some respect and he's made a lot of money. And the combination of those things can make you, you know, quite lackluster, basically. I hope that that's not the case. If Charlo really does want to come back and be the champion, and we see that dog that we're used to, then it's going to be a great fight with Tszyu. But anything less than that, Tszyu beats him. That's my mindset at the moment. That's what I see in Charlo. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that Charlo has a chance against Tszyu, and do you think Tszyu has a chance against Charlo? Do you feel like I do, that Charlo's missing a big chunk of bravery that he had before? Do you think he can get it back? Do you think that maybe it was just the weight difference against Canelo? I definitely think that had a lot to do with it. What about Terence Crawford? Do you think Terence Crawford should fight Errol Spence and then fight the winner of Charlo Tszyu? Let me know what you think. I'm on to the next one.
I said, guess who's back?
Man, guess who's back? I said, guess who's back? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment. Feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more of a similar nature.